What's up, bankers?
Hello, you motherfucking vankers.
God damn it. Here we are. Episode 3, our third and final part of our trilogy breakdown of Drive to Survive. If you're just tuning in for the first one, why don't you go back and listen to the first two?
Right. Go back.
I
don't know if you have 3 hours to commit, but you better, because if you care about us, you'll listen to the first 3 hours of our talking about the first 7 episodes of Drive to Survive, which probably altogether could consist of about 4.5 hours. But we're the fucking red flags. We do things fucking different.
Yeah.
And we fucking give you all the dirty little tea for all you dirty little sluts who live for the fucking drama of Formula One. And episodes 8, 9, and 10 are where the fucking juice was. This is where the juice, we squeeze the orange and we got that OJ, and that's where we hit it back of our throat and we fucking went down smooth, baby.
We guzzled that shit down.
We guzzled it down like Zach Brown guzzling down all of Danny Ricciardo's sweaty shoe champagne, baby.
Yes.
So we're gonna get right into it with episode 8, and this is the George Russell versus Valtteri Bottas episode.
Well, it's called Dances with Wolf. Whoever, as Danny Ricciardo would like to say, whoever came up with that episode name should be fucking shot.
I like that episode name.
Terrible fucking name.
Why? That's a good name.
Fucking reference to a fucking Kevin Costner movie from the 90s. But it's basically everybody's coming for like, you remember those Axe commercials?
Mm-hmm.
Where the guy sprays Axe on himself and
right,
like 1,000 beautiful women are chasing him.
Yeah.
And the guy's just running because he's about to get ripped limb, get the like the shit fucked out of him. He's gonna be fucked to death by 1,000 beautiful women.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just running for his life.
Yep.
That's Valtteri Bottas, like trying to keep his fucking Mercedes seat.
Yeah.
And you know, because Merck's got that Axe body spray fucking engine.
Right.
And all these hot little twinks are fucking chasing him for it.
Yeah.
You know, George Russell wants it. Ocon wants it. Ocon earlier is like, nothing could be better than racing for the French team.
I can think
let's
of
Toto
a couple
fucking
things.
goals.
Yeah.
Let's fucking Toto goals. Then you are leaving Alpine. You are dropping it like it's hot.
Yeah, but
you would become a German citizen to fucking drive for Mercedes. Let's not get it twisted.
Yeah. But there's one little twink who's rising above. Cream rises, and that's life. And you know what? There's one hairless wonder who is really making his way to the top of that list, and that's Mr. George Russell, who's been in the Mercedes program. He's a Mercedes boy, and this episode is trying to dramatize something that was pretty inevitable, it seemed like, even though I think that there were some questions as to why it was taking so long, and I think that this episode attempted to give some light into an answer as to why that was the case, but I don't think it gave a full answer, and
why did he? But here's the question.
Yeah.
Why did it have to be short? What does Toto have to gain by breaking the news early? Nothing. I mean,
but there's a strategy to some of this stuff. There's some like PR shit.
Doesn't he want Bottas driving?
Well, yeah, he doesn't want to piss off Bottas early. It's true.
Yeah,
he's trying to keep Bottas.
What does he have to gain by announcing it early?
Yeah, at Silverstone, which is like they think it's gonna happen at Silverstone. Why shouldn't it happen at Silverstone? And it's like, well, because they're in the middle of a title fight. They're in the middle of a title fight. We need Bottas locked in and fighting for his job.
Thinking he has a chance.
Right. But they try to frame this whole thing as George Russell has an attitude problem. Which, like,
George Russell, company man.
George Russell's such a company man, and they're
We know
framing.
two things about George Russell.
Yeah,
he's a company man and he beats the pussy up.
They profile the crash in Imola, right? That's the
Yeah.
big.
Well, Bottas really sucks in the wet, it seems.
Yeah, it just seems like Bottas has issues when it comes to like the racing of it all.
Especially in the wet.
Bottas can
he's really good at qualifying.
He's a monster qualifier.
Right.
And he can really, punch above his weight class when it comes to that kind of stuff, but when it comes to the we watched it however many times during the season where he'd just be like stuck behind like 6 or 7 guys. And you're like, your car is so much faster than them. Like, what's the holdup here?
We see George is gonna fucking pass him on the straight, and you're like, how is this happening?
Right.
How is a Williams passing a Mercedes on the straight? But it was in the wet.
Right, but it was in the exactly. Yeah, it's in the wet.
Bottas has the confidence in the wet.
And basically, they profiled that crash as, from George's perspective, he's thinking, Valtteri doesn't want me to pass him because I'm me and I'm coming for his job.
Right, and if I pass him, then it's over for me.
Yeah, it's another notch on the George's just. It's another hand on that Mercedes seat.
Yeah.
But it was still pretty early, and I think that like he and I guess Bottas within that crash, Bottas does there's a little jostle, and then George goes off, hits the grass, and then just comes crashing right into Bottas.
It was more George's fault, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah, no, George hit a wet piece of track.
He went off track and hit grass, and then lost all of his traction, and then the car just turned into on Bottas.
Yeah, it was not. Bottas was right.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Bottas like flinched a little bit, but like I don't think in some type of way it's like he knows that he's passing him. Yeah, I don't know, but emotions are running high. You're in. It's hard to really tell it's a split second that this thing happens. And
then there's the Rashomon of like the two of them telling their version of how the exchange went.
Right.
And George says he popped his head in. Even in George's version of events, he was kind of a dick.
Yeah.
He was like, but the way he tells it, it's kind of charming. Mm-hmm. He was like, I went over to see if he was okay. And I said, you trying to kill us? Hey, you're trying to kill us, man. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
Which is kind of the charming way to be a dick.
Right.
And then Valtteri was like, I thought he was coming to check on me. But obviously that wasn't the case. So and then George was like, and he called me a fucking nerd. He called me a CUNT.
Right. He called me. It's like the only thing that could have been more lame if he had said, "He called me a see you next Tuesday."
And CUNT.
And then George kind of hits him on the helmet. He kind of smacks him on the helmet, and it's this kind of very dramatic moment of
VB gives him the middle finger.
Yeah, VB gives him the finger. And there's some drama. There's some drama between these two.
George called him a cunt on the radio too. The VB
right.
Called him,
Right. Yeah. Because VB doesn't he doesn't care about saying that word or not.
Yeah. It's amazing how much they say cunt. They never play it on the TV, but they say it a lot.
Yeah. It's very it's very like
very British.
British, yeah.
The British love saying it.
They love it.
Like when Lando got hit by Lance one point.
Yeah.
Oh, cunt. Idiot. Lando saying cunt is one of my favorite. It sounds the best coming out of his mouth, I think.
Yeah. So they're trying to pit these guys. I mean, it was a real. They're not trying to pit these. This was the dialogue around the season was is George gonna get that seat? And I think that the thing that they didn't talk about in this episode, was that like Lewis wanted George. I mean, Lewis didn't want George. Sorry, Lewis wanted Valtteri, and they kind of say that you get the clips of Lewis talking about how much he loves Valtteri and how great of a teammate Valtteri has been, and that he wants Valtteri to stay on the team. But you don't get the sense of the like when the behind closed doors conversations are happening with Toto. But they're really taking into consideration, well, Lewis wants VP. Lewis wants Bottas.
Lewis wants to keep topping.
Yeah. Lewis wants status quo. Lewis is trying to stick to the stuff you know. If you want to be cool, follow one simple rule. Don't mess with it. Oh, no. Gotta stick to the status quo. Fuck
What's
yeah,
that
dude.
from?
High School Musical. Boom. Yeah, we've been podcasting for 5 straight hours, and I'm singing High School Musical on the Red Flags podcast. But
I'm surprised it took you this long.
I know. A couple episodes ago, I was singing Chicago within 30 seconds of the episode starting.
Yeah, you should sing the rest of this pod, honestly.
Well, we started with Eminem in episode 1. Yeah, so if you're just listening to this, in episode 1, we're fucking singing Lose Yourself. So, and then there's this whole narrative of that, this is really a stain on George's character, that, George can't, and Toto says that he's like, you can't go around blaming other people. You can't go around saying this wasn't my fault and blaming others. And I'm like, that's all anyone ever does in Formula One.
No one ever gets into a crash and says, my bad. I fucked
Never. Up. Lewis does it all the time. And Lewis it's like no one ever
Lewis
takes
said,
responsibility.
My team doesn't make mistakes. I'm like, according to you, your team makes mistakes all the fucking time. It's like, my team doesn't make mistakes. And everyone's like, yes, defend your team. I'm like, until they do one thing you perceive as wrong.
Yeah, we should come in now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, until he made a bunch of mistakes this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want George to behave like a Mercedes driver. He's got to behave. They say that. Like, you got to behave like a Mercedes driver. That Valtteri Bottas behaves like a Mercedes driver. He's like, he looks like a Mercedes driver. He behaves like a Mercedes driver. That's what Toto says when he's on the PJ.
What does it mean to look like a Mercedes driver?
No fucking idea. I mean,
I don't see a lot of commonalities between the way Lewis and Valtteri style themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I have no idea what that means.
They're both polished.
Right.
They have
who's not a Mercedes driver? Maybe Kimi Räikkönen. Not a Mercedes driver. Maybe Kimmy's not a Mercedes driver.
Gasly's not a Mercedes driver.
Who?
I mean, I don't think Gasly's a Mercedes driver.
Well, I don't know, because Gasly's that's a seat that people want Gasly to be in. For the Gasly stands want him in a Mercedes.
Yeah, I would take him in a Mercedes, of course.
I mean, you would want him to be there, right? Gasly's, what are his options? What are his options for the top teams? McLaren, maybe, after Danny Rick leaves? Maybe.
McLaren or...
I don't really see him going to Ferrari.
His best shot is Alpine.
Yeah, but like if Alpine can be a top team, which this year it's looking like they're really not going to be. So like what what string of years is that going to set up if they're starting off this new generation?
I see him
badly?
in a McLaren.
Yeah, I could see him going to McLaren after Danny Rick
being
leaves.
A great number 2.
Oh yeah,
like a kick-ass number 2.
Yeah. So anyway, this is the kind of like who's gonna prove it, who's gonna prove their worth to Toto, who's gonna dance the right dance for Daddy Toto, and we all know the way that it turned out, and the way that they frame it, which is a good framing of it, but I was thinking about this, and there's this kind of like I need to see something in the last race mentality sometimes that like Formula One has. There's kind of like a, if Perez doesn't come from last to first in Abu Dhabi, does he get that seat? There's a little bit of this kind of, it feels like a little bit of like he had that great performance in this one race, so like we got to give it to him now. And
I think that might be a narrative. I mean, Perez had a kick-ass season.
He had a kick-ass season. That's true. He finished second right, of the whole thing.
No, he finished fourth.
He finished fourth. Okay. But he was,
in a Force India.
Right. Yeah.
Racing.
But it does feel a little bit, because the George thing was gonna happen fucking anyway. But then they have the, George's quali in Spa, and George getting that, getting second pace and second position in qualification in a Williams in the wet in Spa, and it's kind of this...
You also picked Bottas's pocket when he was in the Merc the one time.
Right. Which they do. They go
ballsy
into.
As fuck.
Yeah. Right.
To make a move on Bottas in the one time, and how devastated he was when he had the puncture.
Yeah. And George kind of George, George knows that he's on Drive to Survive, so he's playing into it. And he's like, ever since that pass on Bottas, like it's been tense between the two of us. He's like trying to build up the drama.
Trying to be Christian.
And then he also says, like, ever since that race, people recognize me. He's out with his girlfriend. Everyone wants to take pictures of him. And he's like, this is not what I ever set out to do. This isn't what I set out to do.
As you're begging.
As you're begging the Drive to Survive producers.
To be on fucking Drive to Survive. It's unbelievable. He goes, oh, this is awful. Everyone's recognizing me. He also did this weird thing where a Cockney guy was like calling for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't even understand what he's saying. He's like, "Hey, George."
Yeah.
He's just doing this like rich guy classist thing where he's. That's a very. I've learned that English people are all about your accent, and based on your accent, it depends on not only where you're from, but how much money you have.
Right.
I didn't even hear what he's saying. He's like, "Oh, George, hello, governor." Like he was mocking this working class guy's accent.
Right.
So that was kind of, he came off kind of dick if you understand the nuances of.
Well, George Russell is like if you look up the word posh in the dictionary, it's like a picture of George Russell.
Lando's also posh.
Yeah,
Lando's weird because his mom's Belgian.
Right.
So he's got like a weird international background.
Yeah. Lando's definitely posh, but like George embodies, like he looks. Yeah. He's like tall and slender. And he's got the blue eyes, and he's got like the light brown hair. Like he's so fucking posh looking. It's crazy.
Yes.
He's like,
yes. And Toto has to make these, and never have you ever seen, Toto's got to make the decision.
Right.
And never have you ever seen a guy look so uncomfortable in a private jet. He's like weighing his options. He's like, I don't know if I should go Valtteri, the tried and true, or to take the new. And he's like, looks like I'm like, this guy's stressed in a $20 billion gazillion jet. And then we get to the race, and I got us after the summer break.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, Daniel asks Checo one of the dumbest questions, because they're all checking in, like, "Oh, what'd you do over the summer?" Daniel says, "I was in LA."
Yeah.
He goes, "Checo, where were you?" He goes, "I was in Mexico." And then Daniel asked Checo the dumbest question of all time. He goes, "Is it summer in Mexico?" And then Checo did the polite thing. He says, "It's always summer in Mexico." But I'm thinking to myself, Daniel, you were in LA.
Yeah.
For summer break. Mexico is they actually
right there.
I've driven to Mexico from LA. You could do it in a few hours. They're in the same hemisphere. It's like top 5, one of the dumbest questions. Like, I get if you're Australian, you're like, wait, when's your summer? But you live in LA.
Right.
How do you not know? You were there at the same time as him. You know that summers are the same.
Yeah.
And Checo said it's always summer in Mexico. It's like, no, you idiot. Mexico and California are in the fucking same.
Right.
They're neighbors.
Yeah. People drive to Mexico from LA all the time.
All the time. All the goddamn time. Chris's birthday, we fucking drove to Mexico.
Right.
It's not a big deal.
Right.
Jesus. So stupid. I'm like, Daniel, you are so dumb. The dumbest question I've ever heard. Anyway.
Well, I think it's like he's got that like Australia, like, well, for us, you know, like, you know, they have the opposite hemisphere shit.
Yeah, but he owns property in LA.
Yeah. Yeah. You know,
I spent a couple of weeks in England. I kind of know what their fucking shit is now.
Right.
Know what their climate is like.
Right. Yeah, there's this they also do this press conference. This fucking press conference with Bottas and George. And it is kind of, it's interesting to see them like fucking sweat, because during the press conference they're like, any updates on the contract, and it's just like silence. And
they're both, you know, and VB's like no updates.
Yeah, VB's like no updates. And then afterwards, George is like, I don't know, does he know something that I don't know? Like, I don't know, he answered first. You're seeing them like
yeah,
paranoid.
Brian texted me back. He didn't text you? Oh, okay.
Right. And yeah, going back to that.
By the way, something that's happened. And Brian is making moves in LA. Sometimes Brian will come to LA and he'll be in demand. Lots of people will be texting him because Brian is the hub of a wheel of a lot of friends. So it's like, oh, I saw Brian here. Oh no, I didn't see Brian. Did you see Brian? Oh yeah, I saw Brian last night. I thought he got in the next day. It's a little sketch. It's a little sketch.
Well, you know, it is what it is, baby. When you're in demand, you're in demand. When you
Brian,
got the Axe
Brian,
body
were you
spray
at this
on.
bar last night? No, absolutely, absolutely not. I was not at this bar. Really? Because I heard. Nope, you heard wrong. But I got in this morning. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, well, you know, when you're the Valtteri Bottas, you got the seat that everyone wants, everyone's coming for you. Yeah,
right alone.
Moving right alone, dear. And is this the episode where you actually see Toto tell? You see him tell him, right? Yes, that's in this episode.
I don't even know. I can't.
Whatever, doesn't fucking matter. Anyway,
who
cares about what episode is what? Anyway, you do ultimately after Spa, Toto's like, I've made my decision, and you see him tell.
Yeah, they tell him like behind a wall of tires or something, or some. And you think I think it's planned because George is like dressed like he's fucking ready for GQ.
I don't know. I feel like George is always kind of dressed like that a little bit. Like he's always kind of like wearing some like poshy, like tight outfit. Tight meaning just like tight fitting, not dope.
Oh, we miss his qualifying where he qualified like second.
Right. Yeah. Well,
he qualified.
Right.
Did you mention that?
Yeah.
I completely wasn't listening. I was just out of
we're delirious at this point. But yeah,
that was the first qualifying I watched. I was like, is qualifying exciting even? And I watched that. I was like, fuck, now I gotta add this to the fucking schedule.
Yeah.
I got hooked on the greatest qualifying ever.
Yeah. So anyway, George is going to Mercedes. We all know that. And this is the episode where we do it. We see, and you know, as staged or not, I was like, even if it was staged, I was like, feed me, daddy. Let me get a peek behind the curtain and you telling George for the first time. If he did, he acted it well, I will say. And I got to commend the acting. The bad news
is you're driving against Lewis Hamilton. The good news is you're driving a Mercedes.
That's pretty fucking good.
And then I wrote a note here at the end of the episode notes.
Yeah.
Not enough Christian.
Yeah. And I think what Toto Wolff, where Christian gives the sound bites, Toto Wolff gave a lot of access this year. Like, he's letting the cameras in a lot of intimate places.
It's like we're meeting his family, and he's feeding his son, and
I think like Toto really like let them
wife.
in a way that I was not expecting to see, because that has not been the trend. Okay, so then we're getting to episode 9, and I wrote, "Let's fucking go episode 9," because this is where it gets this is where it finally gets good. And you know what's interesting? Because I was like, we've got 10 episodes. Every episode should be about Max and Lewis. But then I was like, okay, I guess 2 hours at the end of the thing like actually will suffice.
Yes.
Like most documentaries are 2 hours, so we have like an hour 45 to 2 hours of just Max and Lewis. So. Damn, we're getting into it's and this is basically they skip over a bunch of shit. They skip over Brazil.
Oh my God, they skip over Brazil,
which was a fucking crime,
a war crime
that they skipped over Brazil in favor of the last 3 races. Which, you know what, one I really could have done. We needed Jeddah and we needed Saudi Arabia, but you know what, we could have done without Qatar. Yes, and they could have done, Brazil instead of Qatar.
Brazil was the craziest fucking race ever.
Brazil was such a fucking amazing race.
Lewis went from last to first.
The wing shit, like that was such
right.
Max touching the wing.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't talk. Yeah, when he was fingering Lewis's ass, when he was fingering the number 44. I mean, that was such ripe drama. He's fined $50,000.
You know, we needed more episodes. Is what we needed.
We needed one more episode.
We needed the Brazil butthole episode.
Yeah.
Also, would have loved this. We got no Strolls this year. Got no Seb.
Right. Yeah. I was okay with that.
Seb lost a podium.
Right.
Because of the fucking fuel shit.
Because of the fuel shit. I know. I didn't really need that, though. As far as like an arc, I was kind of like, I don't know. What's their arc? What's the Seb? I don't know. I didn't really need it. I didn't miss it.
The pressure on Otmar to fucking kiss the ring and then he's gone.
Yeah. But, you gotta... I feel like
gotta make some choices.
Yeah, I also feel like Williams paid. I feel like that company, that American finance company, paid for that episode. They were like, "Please, let's have it be the Williams episode because we're trying to build this brand."
I just could have used a big old Ocon sized cut.
Yeah, an Ocon sized cut, and I also could have done. Honestly, I could have done without this last George Russell, Valtteri Bottas. That being a whole episode about the two of them. Could have done without that. Could have used maybe a little bit more of some other shit. Anyway, so episode 9, we're talking about the last 3 races. At one point in the very beginning,
they do Monza, but they do show Monza.
Right. So they're talking about the Monza, the crash, and how dangerous, and they're going into they're looking at Lewis's car and all the damage that was done to Lewis's car. That was actually pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
And they're in the factory, and it's like the car's in the factory with all the damage on it, which is like there's something about seeing like it's like on display.
The car in that context.
Yeah, the car in that context, like in like a white fucking factory room. That's kind of fascinating, and they're looking at like, okay, the wheel hit here, and blah blah blah.
And he's touching it with his hand, and the engineer goes, "Don't touch it; it's sharp."
Right.
Like how dangerous this thing is.
Right.
This piece of machinery is when it's the structural integrity is compromised.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Don't even touch it.
Right.
This thing is fucking dangerous."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Toto was like, "Thank God for the halo.
Right.
I was fighting against the halo."
Right.
Thank God I lost that fight. What a place of security to like fucking announce that you were so wrong about something.
Yeah.
That is somebody who's secure.
It's interesting to I mean it's kind of a bit scary to think, but like if that like the tire hit the top of the halo, hit Lewis's head and kept rolling. But if it had been stuck, if it had like just planted there, would have been a much more precarious situation.
Well, the point is that it was spinning. Oh, you're saying if it stayed put and spun.
Yeah, I mean, if it had like kind of like landed, if it like it was spinning, but like it was more. It's not necessarily the spin that's gonna like fuck up it's like the weight. It's just like the weight of the fucking. You have a car on your head.
I think that the spin of a grippy tire could move your head.
Totally.
But I'm only speaking from moderate expertise.
Well, yeah. There's a lot of shit that could have gone very, very, very wrong there. And they're talking about this thing, and they talk about Max's. They're like, well, Max has a social media post about it, and then Toto's like, I don't want to hear it.
I don't care
about that. I don't want to hear any of that. And we're like, we want to hear it. You know,
and he's getting catty. He asked a reporter who asked him a stupid question. He goes, "Do you drink? Do you drink during the day? Are you drunk?"
Right.
Then we get to Qatar,
and you could just the building pressure, pressure on these two teams and these two men of Christian and Toto. And Christian, Toto is talking about the nipping at his heels Christian Horner, and he says that Christian is like a little Jack Russell Terrier, so he's trying to snap at your heels. But and then he says, but the whining to the press is something that it's on a new level this year. The whining to Christian's on a new one this year.
Yes.
And he's throwing them shot. I mean, like, and I'm like, yes, feed me that, feed me more of that, feed me everything about you talking shit about Christian Horner.
And then they put him in the same presser together, and they say, so how's the relationship been? And Christian's like, there's no relationship.
Yeah.
That was fucking spicy.
Which Jenny tweeted, follow our Twitter at the Red Flags F1, and Jenny tweeted, the when your relatives are asking you that same question at Thanksgiving every year, there is no relationship. When you're like single going home for Thanksgiving, there is no relationship. And this is when I was talking about how like now we're psychoanalyzing the Christian Toto dynamic, the Christian Toto relationship, and this is when Susie Wolf is like, she's kind of going to bat for Christian on some level. She's not going to bat for him, but she's like, Toto's like, can you believe this guy? I can't believe this guy is saying all this shit. And Susie's like, I get it.
I can.
Yeah. I get why people can fucking hate you, Toto. Like and it's not even from a place of like, it's very secure. It speaks to the security of their maybe like brutal, they're just honest discourse. Where she's like, I don't think that
it comes from a place of empathy, which maybe Toto doesn't have the same amount of.
Right. Well,
I understand how this other person feels.
Yeah.
Like, which is not empathy is not an abundant supply in Formula One.
And
to have empathy, because I think Toto dismisses Christian. Oh, he's doing this, he's doing that. But like, Susie understands it because she puts herself in his shoes.
Yeah.
Which is just basic human empathy.
Right.
So you're like, Susie's got this amazing ability. It's like, I don't know if it's amazing. It's just it's an ability that we don't see.
It is interesting when you're talking about your husband, though. It's different when you're like, this guy's been talking shit about your husband in the press.
That she's able to be that like detached.
Yes, that she's able to be like, an objective. She's like not an objective party in this situation.
Not objective, right?
She's not objective because she's married to the person, one of the people in the fucking crucible of it.
I'd be like, he's a piece of shit. I don't get why he fucking just back the fuck off.
Right.
Leave my mans alone.
Right. Which is what I think maybe Jerry Horner would be, because of what it feels like that their dynamic is like, it's us versus that, like she's in it with Christian in that way where she's like, yeah, fuck them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, they're going to the press conference, and it's interesting to hear their different takes on what the press conference is going to be, because Toto is walking there and he goes, all right, where is the circus show? Where is it? This is going to be a circus. And then you see Christian and his like PR guy, and Christian
lathered up,
and they're like, this is like a ring walk. Like we're walking into fucking boxing ring. And
Christian's like, this is what we play for.
Yeah, this is why I was running in the beginning of the fucking in episode 1. I was on my country estate running to the fucking Rocky music, and now I'm here for this press conference. This is what I fucking live for.
Like, there is no relationship.
Yeah,
there is no relationship. There is no relationship. There is no relationship.
And he's like, I'm not gonna kiss his ass. I'm not gonna kiss his ass. And he's in the mirror. I'm not gonna kiss his ass. I'm not gonna kiss his ass. I'm not gonna kiss his ass. Yeah, that's it. I'm not gonna kiss his ass. And he's in that press conference, and he says,
such a fucking legend. Honestly.
He's like, I'm not gonna kiss his ass. And the press conference ends, and then there's this amazing. They're walking down the steps, and Toto is with like his guys walking down the steps, and in German he goes, "What's his obsession with my ass?"
Like, everybody get in line, buddy.
Yeah, what's his obsession with my ass? Did you hear why? Do you hear why all the listen to what Christian said? Why all these new fans are joining the sport? But let me tell you why you and I are joining the sport, because of Toto's tight little Austrian ass.
Yes.
So then they're talking about like we've profiled Christian and Toto, and now it's like, let's get to Max and Lewis.
Yes.
And there was this Will Buxton quote, which was amazing. And he's talking about the type of scrutiny that Lewis is under. That Lewis has a camera. Lewis is just trying to like live his life, and there's always a camera in his face because he's so fucking famous.
Right.
How Max is not really like that. You know, Max is, while he's famous, he's not nearly at the stratosphere that Lewis is at. And Will Buxton's like, I can't imagine being in Lewis's position, like always having a camera in your face.
Right.
And I was like, you can't imagine it, Will Buxton? Don't you dream about that kind of every night of your whole life? Will Buxton's like, I can't imagine being like so fucking famous. I'm like, babe, you are the number one media boy. Like, you can imagine. You've thought about it.
No, he's tried to imagine. He's tried to imagine.
He tries every night.
He's burned brain cells
trying to put himself there.
Be like, he just doesn't have. Nobody has the imaginative fucking power. Only James Cameron could truly have that sort of imagination,
right,
to put himself there.
Yeah.
But but then then they get to Christian, who's saying basically, Max is kind of a cell phone when he goes, Max is still the same guy that came here when he was 16.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so he's basically hasn't grown up. He's just a fucking 24-year-old teenager, because they say, you're the same age as you always were when you're famous.
Mm-hmm.
Child stars.
Right.
You stop maturing at the age you become famous.
Right.
But maybe Max is perpetually 16. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to say that as like he's humble. It's a humble statement that, like, even though he's got all the fame, that he's still just like a kid who wants to race the car.
Yes, which I think is true.
Which is true. But so then we're profiling the what's it called? Qatar. And the big story from Qatar really was the Gasly crash during qualifying, and then Max not slowing down. And basically there was a double waved yellow because Gasly's had a tire puncture.
Yeah.
And had to stop his car on like the main pit straight, and they waved the double waved yellow, which is the step before a red flag. Shout out the pod. And and Max just didn't slow down. Max like, no, I'm in second right now, and I need to beat fucking Hamilton, so I'm not fucking going anywhere. So he just
hopefully Gasly's not right around the corner.
Right. He's like, where's Gasly? Okay, I won't hit him. They're like, but the double wave. He's like, but I won't hit him. It's fine.
No, but I mean, from the other point of view, is if you look at where it seems like Mercedes might be reaching a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether Max could have actually seen the yellow flag, right? Because you see
Lewis
on the MacBook Pro.
Yeah. like zooming in.
Zooming in, going up there. It is. You see right there. Like the yellow flag might have been triggered right as he passed it.
Right.
Like he might not have seen it.
And
There's
even
plausible
Lewis even
deniability
says, he's like, I mean, it's hard to see, but it's there.
there. Yeah,
It's hard to see, but come on, it's
right there,
there.
plain as day. And Christian calls Michael Massey,
right.
and Christian's like, "This is." You know, it's funny. He calls Michael Massey, and he goes, "Michael, hello, it's Christian. So what are we hearing about this yellow flag?" And Michael's like, "Double wave yellow flag. What's that? I don't know what that is. Like, I have no idea. Huh? Me? Who? What?" He's like playing dumb. I have nothing to do with this. And Christian goes, "It just seems like a fuck up. Like you fucked this up."
Uh-huh.
I think Christian's stance is that they didn't signal it right.
Right.
And then Max didn't see it. And that they were too slow with the flag, and that gives Max some plausible deniability of having not seen it.
Right, but
then they
it doesn't matter because they give him a
5-place grid
5-place grid penalty, and Lewis winds up taking that race.
Yeah,
which is again I think why we didn't really need that race. We could have done Brazil because that race was ultimately a snoozer, and Brazil was not. And we could have gone Brazil to then Saudi, and this is, this was an epic fucking race.
We had the date with VB and Toto.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is again Toto letting the peek behind the curtain, real peek behind the curtain. He invites Valtteri over to his place in Monaco because I guess he has a place in Monaco.
Of course,
who doesn't? Not? I mean, why not? While we're there, you might as well.
Yeah.
And VB comes over and he's basically like having to talk to him about, we're gonna
it's the closure that you always want from your relationship when you break up with someone.
Right.
It's that conversation that you actually never get.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't ever happen. Where you and your significant other just be like, we had a great
run. Yeah.
We had a great run, but it was time, for a change.
Yeah. And when he comes in, VB's kind of fucking with him a little bit, and he's like, "You want anything to drink?" And he goes, "Your most expensive wine," which I love.
And Toto was like, "I can make that happen."
Yeah. He's like, sparkling water is fine.
This was fine. It's the middle of the day.
I'm Valtteri Bottas. I'm number one on John's list. Let's remember that. I'm number one on John's list. Okay. And they kind of frame this and where Jeddah kind of actually comes into play is that it's a little bit, it's about the Max and Lewis stuff, but it's also about that VB kind of sealed the constructors in that race, because during in the beginning when there was like those 3 red flags like right in a row, and Perez crashes, so Perez is out. And Bottas's ability to get third in that race gets both of them on the podium and kind of seals the constructors. Like it had to be a Herculean thing or a double DNF for the Mercedes boys for Red Bull to have taken both the constructors and the drivers.
Well, he did his job. He beat Perez.
Right.
And so we get to Saudi, and Toto has the great line. He usually loses to Christian in terms of sound bites. He goes, "But this is Saudi is the race where you put your balls on the dashboard." Max is sick.
Right. I didn't know Max was sick.
I didn't know he was sick. And everyone was like, he's a choke artist. He's a fucking choke artist.
That was a really interesting. That was I did not know that he was sick at all.
Yeah.
That was fascinating because we talked about that, his quali lap that he was.
That was a great. I mean, it was almost the best quali lap ever.
Yeah.
And he was in a shit. John, he was in a shittier car at that point. That cannot be disputed. And he was hitting purples, and he touched the wall, and it's a Mercedes lockout,
right?
And
I mean, the rest of the episode,
the red flag,
right? It's interesting because it's like when you've actually watched and seen the races, these episodes somewhat don't hold as much wait, because you're like, I already know what happens. I watched
Yes.
it in real time. I saw I saw him do that unbelievable double overtake. And then I saw,
Yes.
I saw him gain the position, try to give the position back, but also do the brake check. I know that they actually looked at that
was
and
a fucking shit show.
Was such a fucking shit show.
If you want to hear a recap of that one, it's titled "Max is Insane."
Yeah, I mean, for these final eps, it's like, I know you've already given up so much of your life by listening to this podcast, but you can listen to our full breakdowns of these races on our previous episodes, including as we get into episode 10, the Latifi. Lewis got Latifi'd. And it's just the final. It's the final race. Who's gonna fucking win it? Who's gonna fucking take it? And
but there was I learned some new things when Max on the radio. He goes, I wrote, because they kept doing standing starts.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote, Max, king of safety, Verstappen says, these standing starts are very dangerous.
That's so true.
I'm like, oh yeah, you're worried about the safety,
right?
He just didn't like the competitive advantage of a standing start,
right? Because he wasn't on it on the starts. He was
getting got.
He was getting got by Lewis.
He was on it. He was on it with a double overtake,
of
Hamilton and Ocon.
Right.
For a second, I was like, "Is Ocon about to win this shit again?"
I know.
Ocon and Max was like, "No fucking
way." Well, it's also like, Max is like, it's getting dangerous because if these standing starts, I lose, and then I'm gonna have to do something dangerous in order to win.
Yeah, exactly.
It was it was sweet to watch Bottas take. Ocon at the very end. That last.
Moment. I was so hard, rock hard for that. And Ocon was like, "No!" I was like, "You got one. Just shut up."
They also didn't really show Max walking off the podium and not celebrating and not spraying the champagne at all, which I was like, a little slutty little moment they could have shown. Anyway, okay, so we're at the final.
Called also Toto an idiot. Like, shut up, fucking idiot. He has no idea. He's a finance guy, for God's sake. All right, so do we want to do our read before we
yes. Okay, so this episode, just like the last two, baby, because we got our fucking new sponsor. It's sponsored by Flags for Good.
That's right.
Now you're probably wondering, what is Flags for Good? Because if you skipped over our fucking previous ad reads, then you know what? You're fucking dead to me because you better fucking listen to this one, all right?
Just in case you skipped those, we got you with us.
We got you right here, so don't fucking miss it, okay? Flags for Good, okay? It's a flag company. We're the Red Flags, okay? So we got a flag company sponsoring this podcast because we keep it in-house. It's fucking synergy. And it's a flag company that stands for something, okay? They only sell flags that they believe in. And you know what those flags are? They're fucking woke flags, okay? We're a fucking woke, because we're the wokest podcast in all of America and all the country and all the world. They donate a portion of every sale to causes that move humanity in the right direction, okay? Yeah. They don't forward, okay? If they fucking stand for something, unlike you fucks.
Okay. Here's the thing:
okay?
is you could stand for nothing and then buy one of these flags and then be like, "Look, I stand for something."
Exactly. Okay, and
that's what I do.
Did you know that the packages come in discrete, compostable packaging? Okay, you know who would be fucking into that? Sebastian Vettel.
Sebastian Vettel.
Okay, this is a Sebastian Vettel.
Wait. Why is the packaging discreet? You're about to let everyone know where you stand.
Well, because it's like
I don't want anyone to know that I support Ukraine. I don't want anybody to know. I don't want the mailman to know until it comes to my house and I open it up.
Well, yeah,
and I put it outside my fucking window.
You don't want something getting in the way, bro. Then when you're at your home, you can defend yourself, just like because you have that right to do that as an American. Just kidding. This company would probably not support anything I just said, but that's fine. That's fine because we support the public discourse, okay? So you need to visit flagsforgood.com for full-size flags, garden flags, and stickers, okay? You can get 10% off your first purchase at flagsforgood.com by using the code red flags, all one word. That's flags with an S, okay? Because we're 2 red flags, and you put the code red flags to get 10% off your first purchase. Stand for something that you fucking believe in. Go to Flags for Good. You can also follow them on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. They make great flag content. They do all kinds of shit. Right now they're selling Ukrainian flags and donating a large portion of their sales to organizations that are helping the people of Ukraine. It's the least you could do, and if you do it and they start to get some sales, then guess what? We are going to benefit from that, so you can do some charity work by helping out your 2 favorite content creators and 2 favorite podcasters, Brian and Matt, the Red Flags.
Yeah, and the 10% isn't out of the fucking generosity of our fucking hearts. It's how they keep track of the shit.
It's how they keep track of how much you love us.
Yes, exactly. So
and we love you.
And we love you. Pro Russia, but also pro us. Get a fucking Ukrainian flag and fucking bury it somewhere, because we need those ad sales.
We need those ad sales, baby, because we're taking this podcast straight to the top. Okay, Episode 10. Let's fucking be done with this shit. We've been podcasting for 5 hours. Oh my god. Oh my lord.
Fuck.
Okay.
Right, let's get the energy up. Let's keep
10.
the energy up.
Okay. Bounce. Bounce, 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 bounce.
You only get one shot, one opportunity.
Saudi. No, it's not. It wasn't Saudi. It was Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi. Okay, so the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the final race of the year.
Not gonna miss my shot.
I am not throwing away my shot. Own shot to be done with this podcast for once in my goddamn life, so I can get on with my life and live a good life that I want to live. Okay, so they're tied going into the final race. Lewis and Max.
They start with Gunther. Couldn't believe.
Do they? What? How does it start again?
He says, "Last race, thank God."
Yeah,
he's only got to pay the landlord 1 more month's rent. You can fucking get out this bitch. And then they also show. I also wrote Lando Norris anti-masker. He's like, "You gonna wear a mask?" He's like, "No." They go, "Why?" He goes, "Because I do what I want when I want."
And he's with Charlotte, our girl Charlotte. Yes. Anyway, so
that girl ass, and then we also have Mazepin. Great foreshadow.
Yeah,
we got a girl ask Mazepin goes, "You know, a girl asked me to crash into Lewis. She's British. Can you believe that?"
Right.
And then Latifi was like, "Hold my beer."
Yeah. Well, you're seeing the kind of like, there is the fervor for on both sides, but there's definitely more of a fervor for Max to win than I think for Lewis to win. And you saw that in the earliest episodes from, you know, the likes of the Gunter Steiners and the Ferraris. They're like they're ready for the Mercedes reign to end. And if that means that it's going to be Christian Horner with his antics and Max Verstappen with his crazy driving, then for it to happen, then they're kind of happy. They're okay
and
with it.
They're asking all the drivers like who they think is going to win.
Who's going to win? Who's going to win? Yeah.
And everyone's like answering diplomatically, and then Lando just says Max Verstappen. He says it like that. He's like, and then Toto, and this is Toto's fatal flaw, I think.
Yeah.
Toto just goes. He says this a lot. He goes, "It's all about performance." That's what I love about F1. He goes, "The stopwatch doesn't lie. The best man would prevail." And then I wrote, F1 is like, "Hold my beer."
Right.
Because this is when they say, we talked about this earlier, but they asked Stefano Domenicali who will win. He says, F1. Because that's what this is all about.
Right. And it's also, Toto's saying like, may the best man win. But then like, we all know that like what he's done afterwards, which is also, to varying degrees of like, the best man didn't win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's all about the stopwatch. And it's like, well, the stopwatch happened and you're in a turtleneck complaining to the FIA. So like, we're also,
I love that, by the way. It's his Elizabeth.
His Elizabeth Holmes.
It's his Elizabeth Holmes
outfit.
Yeah.
This is a very important step for our company. We're disrupting the blood testing market.
But when Elizabeth Holmes goes evil,
right.
It's when they even have that which when she puts on the turtleneck, and then no going back. And totally does the same thing.
Yeah.
Directed by a colleague of mine. Anyway,
That's true. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's coming into that final thing. There, in terms of before the race starts, you're kind of seeing this like last moments before the big battle. They have this like they're kind of like denouement. They're little, or not even that, just like they're little like the calm before the storm. Yeah. And they're having these like holiday parties because it's like right around it's like 2 weeks before Christmas, so they're having like these like Christmas parties for their different teams. And you're seeing the Red Bull. You don't really you don't see the Mercedes party, but you see the Red Bull party. And at the Red Bull party, you're seeing Christian Horner
outdoing himself.
And they're all like everyone's drinking their Heinekens. They're all like getting a little loose. And Christian's doing his best at his locker room talk.
Well, so people talk about dad jokes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Christian, there's another type of dad, which is my dad, who does dirty dad jokes.
Right.
Who is a dad joke with edge, where it's like both cringe in that it's a bad joke and it's like it's just unwoke and not like racist, but just like inappropriate.
Right. Yeah.
Inappropriate.
There's like corny dad jokes.
Yeah.
There's like three versions of like dad jokes. There's like corny PG dad jokes.
Yeah. Yes.
Then there's what I would describe as like dad jokes where it's like you can't understand what the joke is because they're like those guys that are just kind of like they're like, my uncle does this. He's like, he'll tell me, I'll be like, I can never follow it. He goes, what do you call this? And he like waits for me to, and then he says the joke. I'm like, I can't. There's no thread for me to grasp onto there. I can't understand what's happening here.
Or they'll just say something. Yeah.
And then there's the Christian Horner dad joke, which is just like, it's not even a joke. It's just like to talk about. So he's talking to
going
the boys
for shock value.
It's
like this guy listens to Howard Stern and he's just going to go for it.
Right. And he's talking about Checo. And he's talking
Checo's
to like
looking
the guys.
Wild in this. His hair is
he's looking wily.
He's looking like he hasn't slept.
Right.
His hair is all out of place. And you want to.
And he says, he goes. Well, you know why they call him Checo? You know what that means?
In Mexico.
And Max is like, what? And he's like, big dick.
And Checo looks at him like, yeah, tell the truth. Tell the truth.
He's like, speak on it.
And then speak on it.
Speak on it.
He doesn't. Checo doesn't blink. He's like, that's right.
I was just like, what the fuck is going on?
I was like, these guys are your employees.
It's such a classic because he a little bit can have some Michael
horses.
Scott. But he also can have some like Michael Scott syndrome where he wants to be one of the boys.
Yeah.
Like he wants to be like, it's us, right, guys? And they're like, okay, like you are my boss, and you are like, you'll kill me.
But he will replace them. And
he will replace me immediately. There was a moment earlier, like way in one of the earlier episodes, where they're talking about their kids, and Checo's like, we should all, because they have kids the same age, like Checo and Christian have like kids around the same age. Like we should all get them all together to like, play and hang out. And there's a vibe where I'm just like, yeah, because Checo's like, I need an. No, he's like,
he needs an in.
He needs an in. He's like, if our kids are friends, it's gonna be harder for you to cut me, bro. It's gonna be harder for you to get rid of me.
Like, I barely even think about my kids, so.
But
I'll buy my kids new friends.
Before the race, they do show Christian and Toto both like FaceTiming with their kids and being sweet and being nice. And I think it's Will Buxton who's like, they have a lot more in common than they realize, and they're
both rich as fuck.
They're both rich as
no time with their kids.
Yeah.
There's a great thing where Toto goes to Harvard.
Right.
To Harvard, I think, in the off season.
Yeah.
And some fucking nerd goes, excuse me, Mr. Wolf, how do you do like when you're in a high performance job? How do you do a work-life balance? How do you do it? And he just goes, you can't.
Right, yeah, I saw that.
And I was like, damn.
It is wild. There is
He
a
admitted
crazy
to it.
sacrifice that you
Yeah.
make to do all this shit. And it's interesting because it's like it's more intense. It's probably in certain ways more intense and more demanding for the Totos of the world, but imagine what it's like for the fucking mechanics who have to be on that schedule but don't have
it's the same.
They work basically they work basically the same hours. It's almost in many ways the exact same sacrifice, but they don't make nearly as much money.
And
they don't have the ability to fly
glory.
up. Yeah, they don't get as much glory, and they don't get to like fly home in a private jet to like see their kids.
Right.
It's a crazy sacrifice. I mean, the sport it's so fucking wild. It's so
also
crazy.
Seems like Jerry spends a lot of time with him too. Like
Right.
she's at a lot of those races.
Yeah. So then it gets down to the actual race, and I mean, we know
starts it off. He says,
"Oh, does he?"
He's being corny as fuck. He just says, he goes, "Let's go racing." And I wrote the TV being corny as fuck before he ruins everything. Let's go racing. And when he goes, and then Tsunoda goes, "Let's fucking go, man." That was a fucking good lap. And I think that might have been during qualifying. But anyway,
yeah.
Christian's when he's talking about Checo's big dick,
right?
I mean, that's what like a guy will say about a horse that he owns. Like, look at
right.
You see the Godfather is like, "Would you look at the cock on this horse?"
right.
And then the race happens, and you just see the different faces and contortions that Christian makes,
right,
as this championship is slipping away.
Yeah. Well, I before we get there, as we do this, but there was a moment where in the garage before the race, Christian is talking to Max. He's like, "We're gonna go aggressive," and he's like, "Yeah," and he goes, "Don't worry, I'll squeeze Toto's bullocks this afternoon." Jenny writes, "This guy wants to fuck Toto so badly." Jenny also writes, "I'm so nervous and I already know what happens. It's not even the race and it's still quali." Anyway.
Yeah, and basically, John wrote us a hot take on this.
Yeah.
How Christian and Toto, you could create and fill an entire biannual academic journal dedicated to the study of whatever the fuck is going on here, including a yearly conference. So I don't want to cover it all. That said, at this point, Christian being psychosexually obsessed with Toto is no longer subtext. It's just text. Christian sees that shot of Toto in the black turtleneck at the end and immediately has to go autoerotically asphyxiate himself in the bathroom before heading out for another fox hunt or whatever whatever it is that Tories do.
Oh, so good.
Anyway,
yeah, I mean, we know what happens in the. I mean, it's the race. I'm glad that they give Checo his moment. And, they profile the Checo thing.
But it had no setup.
So but it had no, it didn't really have that much of a setup.
Understand that he had an up and down season there.
But they did talk about how Checo has a big dick about 5 minutes before this. So we were seeing Checo's big dick. We're seeing Checo's big dick in action. All they say. Yeah.
It's like, oh, they kept that great.
And I was like, are they going to keep in Max's? Oh, Checo's a legend.
Yeah.
And they did, which I was happy about.
And I wish they had cut back to Christian making the big dick, like cut back to him doing like the foot long.
But you see, it's like for all the work that Checo did, and then Max is right behind Lewis, and then like the next cut, it's like Lewis is so far ahead of Max. I mean, it's like you're seeing Lewis, and then it's like you see Max way in the distance.
It still mattered though at the end of the day.
It did.
He had those old tires. He used those tires.
Right.
That you and I mean Toto. It also had Toto saying before, Red Bull is like the babies throwing the toys out of the pram. He's so dismissive of that.
He really is. It is interesting because it's like he's so calculated and he says things like he doesn't get angry. I mean, he does when he slams his fucking like headphones and he points at the camera and says "fuck you," but like all of his insults are so sly, and all of Christian's insults are so like wild and violent. But it doesn't mean that like they hold less weight. If anything, like sometimes it could be like more. It's like if you're dismissive, that's like it's like a parent who's disappointed in you as opposed to just like mad at you. It's like I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. And that's then, like that's Toto's whole vibe with Christian. It's like I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. And Christian's like fuck you.
Fuck you.
And
not fuck you, fuck me, daddy, please. But we watch Christian might have. Christian should have been an actor, honestly. All the faces he makes, his expressions, the way he's like fucking davening like a Jew,
right?
Like towards Israel, towards Jerusalem, like swaying, and he's so nervous. And it's just, watching him watch that race is just pure theater. And things are going well, and things are going bad, and he's just his reaction to everything. And then it's looking bad. Right. Like Lewis just has the pace.
Yeah.
And they got fucked where, Lewis kept the place. But he went off track.
Right. And he had to give back the advantage that he gained. And they're like,
where did you get the advantage?
But he's like, did he actually give the advantage back?
He goes, where? And he's like, I had to